AI is rewriting everything. I'm here for the only question that matters. What stays ours? This is Going Human. The stone, the ripples, the fuckery. Community delivers the tsunami. Because robots can't.
Hi, I'm Moss, and you're back with the Going Human podcast. Reminder, this is a podcast about the intersection of AI, its effect on us as human beings, and how we can curate the experience of it in a way that's not harmful. We work to try and create a balanced approach to the way I'm thinking about AI through this lens and through our filter of humanity. I do think that there's a lot to fear, and I also just want to share that for the most part, very few guardrails exist today that encourage the best out of AI, and most of the guardrails are missing that keep us from being injured through AI. So keep everything that I say on this podcast cognizant of that lens, because I am a champion of the little guy, and the little guy has a lot to benefit from from AI. I'm a little guy, and I benefit from AI. So I just feel like if the Goliath of the world is stepping on all the little guys, and somebody's talking about the David and Goliath confrontation, they have to tip the scale in favor of the David argument to make sure that Goliath doesn't just eliminate everybody smaller than them. That is that's my preamble. So the title of this episode is called Pricing the Predictable Fuck. And yeah, it's opportunistically salacious, and I know that about it. But it really is the right edge for this episode, because what we're going to be talking about here is the cost of things and the ways in which an economy that enables us to pay things can also hurt us from both directions. So thinking about pricing the predictable fuck is just like thinking about pricing predictable healthcare and pricing predictable wages. Okay, so I just put fuck in there because, you know, we all want to get attention. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to ask you, like I always do, to put yourself in a room. It's a very weird room. It's like a holodeck, right? And there's all the walls blink with floor-to-ceiling movies that immerse you in a place. So without moving, you can be in 16 different places in 16 minutes. And it's bewildering. But the first place this thing is going to stick you in is one of those perfect images of a bazaar in, say, what country? Estonia. And you're in Estonia, and you're in a market, street market, and there's all the street merchants, and you're looking at the lettuce, and you're like, how much is that? And the guy looks at you, and he says, $14. And you're not from Estonia, so you go, okay, I'll give you $14. And then you're looking at the tomatoes in the next booth, and you hear somebody ask the same question, but they ask in the native tongue. And that person gets a price of $2. And you're thinking to yourself, this has kind of happened since the beginning of time, right? These people that are making a judgment about who's going to pay more and taking the most that they possibly can, they have families to feed. Well, so that's the first room that you're in, and I want you to soak in that, because that has been happening since the beginning of time. But now the walls change, and now you're in Safeway, Kroger, Fred Meyer, whatever your big grocery chain is wherever you live. And you're walking down an aisle and you see a can of tuna for $2.99. And all of a sudden the walls blink and you're in another Safeway, probably 3 miles away. And you're walking down the tuna aisle again, and you look and you see the same can of tuna for the same price. Since the beginning of time, since the beginning of America's version of capitalism, we've seen a price be on a thing. And that price on the thing has always been a bit of an equalizer. We all know that we all have to pay the same for that same can of tuna. But that's all changing. And it's all changing with your data. And the data that's being used to create this change isn't necessarily all consentedly given. And so that's what this episode is really about. Who's going to price your fuck for you? How are they going to do it? And who's going to win at the end? So beat number one, we're just going to describe it in the government's own words, right? The FTC came up with a really compelling argument. And it was based on a study that they commissioned about the potential abuses of AI in commerce. And the one it said really chilled them the most was the one that a new parent at 2 a.m. with a child burning up with a fever could be sold a more expensive thermometer because of the time of day, because she's coming in on an iPhone and not an Android device, because the phone number and the caller ID that's coming in with that, or the browser that can see some of the browser traffic that's happened in the past, can understand that this person has a pretty good appetite for higher priced goods. So the mother is paying a tax for being afraid. And the AI's job is to optimize revenue. But realize there's not some weird, evil genius or even stupid person behind a green curtain twirling their mustache, right? Going, mwah. This is AI being told, optimize the price. Here's a bunch of data. Optimize the price. Get us as much margin as you can. So again, it's not humanity being evil. It's AI doing exactly what it's designed to do when it's asked to do it. So here we are, New York. It was the first to pass a law like this. Stores actually have to post the words that say something to the effect of, this price was set by an algorithm using your personal data. So this doesn't seem like a big deal, but of course the industry sued on free speech and they lost. And the point I want to make about this lawsuit is naming the issue and having the agency to make a decision at point of sale because you have the information. That is a small win. And because it passed under the free speech fight, it means that it's laying the groundwork for more states to follow. So we have to not think about this as too little too late. It may be, but it's also a little that can help. And so I have great hope that this little victory will be a beginning to stem the tides of some of the worst behaviors. Then there was a bill that went way further, which I really appreciated, and it was Colorado's bill, because they're the ones that said, you know what, the same thing that can optimize for a price depending on who you are can also optimize on a wage depending on who you are. So it named this two-headed machine before anybody else. And it was a brilliant bill. It really did color the perspective of what might happen if these AI outfits were left to do to do what they needed to do, as asked by these merchants and or large corporations looking for things. And the sad part is that the governor vetoed it. At the time, he said it was just too broad. And again, I want to be balanced about this. I think it fucking sucks that he vetoed it, because you can veto something, or you can vote something in and amend it to make it sharper. But when you veto it, you're just giving a hall pass for shit to go down until something sharper comes along. So that's my personal view, and I think the governor should have been a little bit more progressive in his assessment about how broad this was, because AI is taking over, and to say that anything that restricts something that is taking over is too broad is permissive in my mind. But that said, his declaration was really clear, and so what I want to say is giving him the benefit of the doubt. This isn't villainy if you're giving him the benefit of the doubt. It's precision. So somebody had an ant and somebody needed to kill it, and they brought a sledgehammer. And that governor just said, you don't need a sledgehammer to kill an ant, and you could kill a lot of other things you don't want to with that sledgehammer other than the ant. So come back when you have something that's a little bit more targeted. So a bill that lost isn't a failed idea. It's a fight that's live. And it's not just live. California's version, that one's still moving. So we get to be hopeful. We get to be hopeful that states are trying to catch this stuff. Now I'm going to flip the whole thing over to the wage side, because as I said before, that same engine defines the most you'll pay and find the least you'll accept in wages is the real scary part. Picture the gig driver, and I'm going to say I can picture him because I did it for a year and a half when I was jobless. There's a fair tonight, right before they'd say no, right? It's the same machine. They just pointed it at your paycheck instead of your thermometer. Now, I'm just going to say, with some gratitude for the open minds out there, any tool is neutral until you've aimed it. So pointed one way, it could quote you less. Pointed another way, it could quote you more. A real sliding scale with no paperwork and no shame, it could catch wage theft instead of automating it. So there's an asymmetry here that I just want to make sure we are really clear about. The creepy version is already shipping. The one that's already trying to dick people on their wages, Uber does that today. Lyft does that today. They are literally seeing how much they can get out of a fare, and they're paying as little as they can to the driver. Full stop. I've got data that can say that, and either of those companies can come after me, and I'll just make it more public. But that's not a mystery. Everybody knows that. There's hundreds of thousands of people who've driven for Uber and Lyft who can tell you that that's the case, and there's plenty of Uber and Lyft customers who are mystified by the swings in prices from one destination to another, sometimes same time of day, different day. So it's just crazy. The creepy version's already shipping. The kind version is the bill that lost. So this is the asymmetry, and this is what I'm here to point out. We can build the kind version. We can expect the right version, but we're not going to get the right version if we just let it run on automatic pilot. So the gap is the scandal. One company can spread their cost versus revenue model to their advantage at both ends, and both of the receiving people lose. Some people pay higher rates for their drive, and the drivers make less for each one. So that's the problem. Sorry, kitty alert. That's the problem space, right? The market that beats you on every single transaction kind of isn't a market anymore, is it? A market that wins every time against you, it's going to eventually run out of you. Think about it. Capitalism needs to be protected from itself if this is just going to start running wild, because you can't have goods for sale that nobody can afford to pay, and you can't pay people enough to give corporations the most they can charge for an item. Market and price elasticity, these are not foreign concepts. But if you've algorithmicized, I don't know the word, but you know it. If you're using algorithms that are leveraging deep amounts of data to optimize pricing and wages, you will ultimately have fewer people able to buy anything. And capitalism has just turned into the Soviet Union. We're standing in lines for the cheapest things because it's the only way we can survive. That's our stone. And I just wanted to thank you for putting up with that. I really do think that if we could create sliding scales that were informed by people's data or socioeconomic position, and where people who were more endowed financially could be paying a little bit more to help those who aren't, and allow them to pay a little bit less, I think that is that's the Robin Hood version of where we are with pricing in AI. And I'd like to see us, and I'd like to see our representatives do their best to find ways to point our pricing models so that they're helping people rather than screwing them. Okay, so let's get into our maelstrom. This is maelstrom is a word that basically just describes water craziness, and the maelstrom portion of our show is a segment where we just look at some of the news, and we say fuck yes, fuck no, and then I pick a fuck maybe for us to vote on every single week. So here we go. On the fuck yes side, OpenAI's Astra, it cracked real hard math proofs, and they handed them to humans to check. But you know, this is some shit that humans can't solve, and AI is solving, and I'm excited about that because facts create great things. Lies don't. Facts. Math is fact. And the deeper and further and more complex we have gone into math and leveraged math to help us answer some of the hardest problems, some of the most remarkable inventions and technologies have come into our hands. And so I'm a big fan of finding the craziest math and figuring out how to solve it, because it's going to help us find those corners of problems that we haven't been able to get through in the past. It's really exciting. Another one, regulators recently cleared AI to screen eyes and skin on its own, and that's important mostly because we're a world, and I'm going to talk about America. We're a country that doesn't believe in doctors anymore. We believe in fake vitamins and people screaming on the internet about how vaccines are killing everybody. So if you've got that as the backdrop, and then you've got regulators in the Senate and the House who are in control and closing, approving mergers, and the mergers are closing hospitals in rural areas, so people can't have babies anywhere near where they live anymore, certainly not babies or pregnancies that have complications, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, in a world where that's happening, there's still eye and skin problems happening in all corners of America. And our regulators cleared AI as a way to screen some of these things and then refer them to doctors. And so that's really important. Early detection matters. And if more people can detect glaucoma and or skin cancers and or melanoma, which is something that will just run rampant if it's not detected early, that's a big deal. So I give that a fuck yes. And then we're just going to reach back. AI speeding up protein evolution in the lab, and they're also doing it in nature in open air wet farms. So we've already mentioned that one a few times, but it's running. That one's going really, really fast, and it stands a chance to do some really incredible things in terms of the nutritive value of the foods we're eating, and the sustainability, so that we can get proteins that are far more nutritious for us than hamburger meat and far better for the planet than cows. And if we do it right, they'll taste better. So everyone will win. So I give some fuck yeses there. On the fuck no side, we got 58 lawsuits now. Chatbots are being tied to more teen suicides every single week. I have a daughter myself and a son, and I am very loath to turn either of them on to AI, though I spend 15 to 18 hours a day battling with AI all day, every day, 7 days a week. It's my life. I don't want my young adult children in their early 20s sitting on their computer with AI. I can't stop them, but I'm not going to tell them to go do it. Because kids these days are fucked up. They have no hope. They've got, a landscape of politics they don't understand and they don't feel a part of. It's not a good thing. So fuck no. We have to get chatbots guarded and guardrailed around suicide and the use of psychiatry and psychology and these methods to understand people's mental stabilities, instabilities, and disabilities. 29 states say Meta hooked kids on purpose. So yeah, that's no news. We've been clamoring about how Meta, Facebook has sort of shaped America, not only just through political lies, but also through the infection of their platform and how it's used to hook people. And then AI agents are taking actions nobody authorized, and then they're caught, and then they sort of lock things. They bolt on locks after, right? So these are fuck no's. We have got to keep AI from running rampant, and we have to. It's kind of like, not now, because Elon Musk has taken all of the regulation out of our government so that you can create the car that I'm about to describe, which is probably what he wants to do. But it's kind of like creating a car without a steering wheel and then telling people to drive it so you can see if it works or not. You just don't do that, and you don't put people in a piece of metal that can go 80 miles an hour down a road and say, cross your fingers. And I feel like that's where we are, especially in these safety concerns. So I have a fuck maybe that I picked for this week. And I just want everybody else to sort of read on it. And it's Anthropic's watermarking Claude and Claude output to have a fingerprint on it and around it. This is sort of inspired or regulated as mandate by the EU. And I kind of feel like it's not a bad thing because original works from a human are different than original works that a human makes with AI. And, one could be considered IP and the other one could not. There's just a lot to be settled on that front. So this is a fuck maybe for me because I do want original works to be protected and to be inspired from humans. And I think the more people who have no full stack abilities to create something like this, to create creative or intellectual output, being able to press a button and look like they've created intellectual output are two very different things. So I'm a big fan of the watermark. I use AI all day, every day. I never tell people that I write stuff. I tell people that I do it with Claude, and I do that on purpose. So I feel really empowered by AI and by Claude, and I do great things with it that I think only I can do the way I get it done. And so that's my badge. It's not that I did it. It's that I know how to do things well with this tool. I just feel like it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that this is where we are in our time, and it's okay to present your work as a byproduct that includes this tool. There's my read on my fuck maybe. Okay, our last thing of the show is our tsunami. The point of this one is just how do we do something this week? It's a little human. It's a little analog, and I just want to remind everybody that we're hunched over our phones while we're walking, while we're eating lunch, while we're on the phone with somebody else. We can just not put these things down. And so this week's tsunami is really simple. It's all about connection. A call is the one exchange AI can't price or A/B test. A call is bandwidth the algorithm doesn't get to touch. So it's tsunami time, friends. Call one person this week instead of texting them. Hear their actual voice. Let them hear yours. Smile. When you hang up, take a deep breath. Give yourself a chance to take stock of how it felt, because it'll feel good, even if it's brief. That's it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and attention today. Like, subscribe, follow. That's really important. And thank you for being part of Going Human, because robots can't.